When the high temperature hit, my parents-in-law and my sister-in-law stayed at my house and ate and drank without restraint. When I went out to buy, they threw my daughter off a tall building. In the end, I and my daughter were killed by the heat at the door. My husband and I had just been married for less than a year, and my parents-in-law wanted to move here because their house was old and had no heating. After hearing the news, I prepared a big table of sumptuous dinner to welcome them. But who knew that as soon as they entered the house, my mother-in-law gave me a warning. Not only did she dislike the lobster I bought was too small, but she also asked me if I looked down on him. She even made a big fuss and asked me to go out and buy him a new one. My father-in-law also drove me out of the master bedroom as soon as he came, saying that they were too old to sleep on a hard bed and asked us to sleep on the floor. My daughter's children's room was also occupied by my nephew and sister-in-law. After 3 days the high temperature hit, and the temperature soared like crazy. My parents-in-law and their family also stayed away completely. There were so many people and they ate without restraint, so they finished eating quickly. My husband had to be pushed out to find food, but he didn't come back for a long time. I was worried that my husband was worried about his daughter again, but my sister-in-law pushed me out of the house directly, saying, "Sister-in-law, go find my brother and bring some food back, otherwise we will really starve to death." The high temperature outside can even melt the soles of my shoes. I endured the pain and walked downstairs, but they actually threw my daughter off the high building as soon as I left the house. I was completely crazy and wanted to kill them with my own hands to avenge my daughter. I lost my mind and rushed upstairs with an iron rod. Even though the iron rod was scorching hot, it burned my palm in an instant. My parents-in-law didn't open the door at all, and my sister-in-law laughed at my sister-in-law through the door. "My son and my brother are dead. Do you want us to raise a money-losing thing for you? Even if you want revenge, what can you do? We are many people. As long as I don't open the door, you can't do anything to us. Don't worry, your home will be mine in the future." I hate them, but I know what they said is true. In the end, I and my daughter were killed by heat outside the door. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when my parents-in-law were coming to my house. When my daughter heard that my mother-in-law and her family were coming, she shook unconsciously. After my inquiry, I learned that my nephew secretly bullied my daughter every time he came. My daughter was afraid and wanted to complain to me, but my parents-in-law threatened her not to say anything. My grandparents said that if I dared to complain, you would not want me. I took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in my heart. My parents-in-law have always favored my younger sister-in-law. In addition, I have only given birth to a daughter after many years of marriage, so they are even more dissatisfied with me. But I didn't expect that they would not let my daughter go. The most urgent thing is to solve the crisis at hand. It is definitely too late to shop online. I drove and took my daughter to the largest wholesale market first. In my previous life, I also had the habit of stockpiling goods, but I couldn't stand the indiscriminate eating and drinking of my parents-in-law and younger sister-in-law. The most lacking thing under high temperature is water. Many places are dry and rivers are dry. Water is the most important. I found a store for ordering bottled water, ordered 300 barrels of water in one go, and bought 100 boxes of mineral water. The water problem was temporarily solved. The next thing is food. What lobster, abalone, and sea cucumber? I waved my hand and packed them all. When the weather is hot, I choose vacuum packaging for fear of spoiling. This is not enough. I bought 100 boxes of instant noodles, self-heating hot pot and compressed biscuits. In my last life, hunger and heat left me with great fear. I will get sick at that time, so I cleared out all the huashangjingqi water and antipyretic patches in the nearby pharmacy. I was afraid of attracting attention. I always told the pharmacy that I was going on a long trip and was afraid of heat stroke. It is still not enough for me alone. It is difficult for me to collect all the resources in one day. I hesitated whether to tell my husband, and I was afraid that he would consider the relationship with his parents-in-law and bring the wolf into the house again. It happened that my husband called, and his tone was very anxious. "Wife, where are you? Go to the kindergarten to pick up your daughter. After picking up your daughter, take her to the yard left by your parents. Buy more food and water, don't go home recently." I widened my eyes in disbelief, stood stiffly in place, tears in my eyes, and asked chokingly, "Husband, you are back too." The biggest good news is undoubtedly that my husband was also reborn. We met quickly and I told her everything that happened after she left. My husband hugged us, mother and daughter, with guilt and kept apologizing. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Don't worry, I will definitely protect you well this time, and will never let outsiders hurt you again." Wait, what do you mean by outsiders? In fact, I am not my parents' biological child. They picked me up. I suddenly realized that it was no wonder that my parents-in-law favored my sister-in-law. I thought they didn't like me. It turned out that my son was not their biological child at all. Everything was explained clearly. My husband and I decided to act separately. He was responsible for buying some large electrical appliances, and I took my daughter to buy daily necessities and food. In this way, even if the high temperature came, we could enjoy the air conditioning and separate from my husband again. I also bought a lot of dry goods such as black fungus, seaweed, shiitake mushrooms, red dates, longans, peppers, peanuts, melon seeds, seaweed, kelp, etc. I bought 30 kilograms of seafood. I was afraid that my daughter would be bored, so I bought some dried fruits, walnuts, almonds, etc. I bought 50 kilograms. Thinking that vegetables and fruits are not easy to preserve, I bought dried fruits that can be eaten for a long time, and bought 50 kilograms of all. My daughter said she wanted to eat Haagen-Dazs, so I remembered it and ran to the store to buy 3 big boxes. It was midnight when all the shops outside were closed, and I stopped. My daughter had been sleepy for a long time and fell asleep in the car. I hired a truck in advance to deliver the things to the yard left by my parents. The preparations at my husband's place were almost done. I installed an electric grid at the door for fear that there would be a power outage. 2 solar generators, I have had them pile up the things you bought in the cellar. I also installed a water purifier, air conditioners in every room, and I also ordered some knives from my friend which will be delivered early tomorrow morning. After we checked what we needed and confirmed that there was nothing to add, we breathed a sigh of relief. My husband was a little worried. My parents will be here tomorrow, so I shouldn't go back with my daughter. I was a little hesitant. On the one hand, I wanted to take revenge myself. Seeing their miserable state, I was really worried about my daughter, but I also knew that if I wasn't there, they might come to my house again. After hesitating for a long time, my daughter woke up and made a fuss about wanting to be with her dad. I made up my mind that our family must be together. To celebrate the rebirth, my husband and I took our daughter to have another meal at Hai Ming Lao, and bought some hot pot base and snacks by the way. If the car could fit, I really wanted to buy everything. The next day, my husband stayed behind and installed a few more anti-theft iron bars. There will be no need for electricity at that time. The high temperature will make people's skin peel off. After I brought my daughter home, my parents-in-law and sister-in-law's family arrived. My parents took care of them. Brother-in-law, you are finally here, coming quickly. I entertained them warmly. After entering the door, I glanced at the suitcases in their hands calmly. I knew there was nothing inside. Just like in the last life, they were thinking about eating and taking things. As soon as they entered the door, they shouted that it was hot and turned on all the air conditioners in the house. My father-in-law didn't even take off his shoes and lay directly on the French sofa I bought not long ago. And he made a comfortable moan. This sofa is really comfortable. When we go back, we will buy one for our family in Zhaomiao. You spend my son's money just to enjoy yourself. Your father and I can only live in the old house in the countryside. He really forgot about Grandma Yang after marrying a wife. He glanced at the house with a sly look, spit a mouthful of thick phlegm directly on the carpet, and stepped on it. The carpet instantly turned black. My daughter shrank behind me in fear, and I patted her shoulder, indicating to ignore her. The sister-in-law didn't like to listen to his parents' complaints, and went straight to the main house. He saw the dazzling array of bags and clothes, drooling, and wished he could stuff them all into his arms. My sister-in-law is too good at buying things. These are all big brands. He didn't care about my response, and saw the cosmetics piled on the dressing table. His eyes were shining, saying that he wanted it. The mother-in-law was eyeing her covetously, and I would naturally do as she wished. Zhao Miao likes it, take it any time. Don't be polite with my sister-in-law. You are pretending to be generous, but you are still spending my son's money. The mother-in-law muttered softly, and I smiled gently and pretended not to hear. In the last life, Zhao Miao also coveted my things. I generously gave her several clothes and bags, but she was still not satisfied. Now I glanced at Zhao Miao with a smile. The clothes, bags, and cosmetics inside were all added by me. As long as he is greedy, he can't blame me when he gets ulcerated. I want to eat Haagen-Dazs, my little nephew. She ran to me, put her hands on her hips and instructed me, go to the refrigerator. I pointed to the refrigerator and asked my daughter to take my nephew to get it. My nephew thought my daughter was too slow and pushed him away. Wow, there are so many ice creams. My friends will definitely envy me. He couldn't wait and took 5 boxes of ice cream of different flavors to eat. Seeing this, my mother-in-law and the others didn't mean to stop him. I was even more eager for him to eat more. These were all expired products that I had spent a lot of effort to find. In my previous life, because my daughter wanted to eat Haagen-Dazs but my son refused, I just taught him a few words to learn to share. My sister-in-law immediately jumped up and scolded me. After they finished harvesting, they remembered that they were hungry. My mother-in-law was eating melon seeds and spit the shells on the ground. She glared at me and said, hurry up and cook for us. Do you want to starve us to death? By the way, there are also king crabs that my husband likes to eat. You can buy them, sister-in-law. My sister-in-law had already changed into my clothes and painted herself into a weird look. I am here. I just noticed that Suhi, who has always had no sense of presence, has been sitting quietly by the side since he entered the door. People who meet him for the first time may be attracted by his honest and loyal appearance, but I know that he is a devil at heart. In my previous life, I had a good impression of Suhi, and he respected me as his sister-in-law. But on the night when my husband went out to find food and didn't come back, he actually sneaked into the living room and wanted to violate me. Sister-in-law, since my eldest brother can't come back, why don't you follow me? He was afraid that I would wake up others with a sound, so he covered my mouth tightly. If my daughter hadn't been awakened and hurried to knock on the door of my parents-in-law, he would have succeeded. What's more hateful is that Suhi insisted that it was my fault. No matter how I explained, no one believed me except my daughter. Sister-in-law, don't make trouble for me. I can eat anything. Suhi's voice brought me back to reality. I lowered my eyes and suppressed the hatred in my heart. When I raised my eyes again, the hatred in my eyes dissipated. I also wanted to make trouble, but she accidentally cut her hand with a knife last night. I'm afraid I'll have to trouble Mom to cook for me today. I stretched out my bandaged right hand that was hidden behind my back and said, "What are you regretting about? You must have done it on purpose. I called you yesterday and you hurt your hand at night." At this moment my husband pushed the door open and came back. When my mother-in-law saw my husband coming back, she wanted to complain. "Suxian, you're back just in time. What do you mean by thanking you? Just as we said we were coming. His hand was injured and he couldn't cook. Does he want to starve us to death?" After saying that, he looked at me provocatively. That's how mother-in-law is. No matter whether you agree with her or not, she will always find fault with everything. Even in the last life I prepared a full banquet for them, but in the eyes of my mother-in-law, I was the one who ate and drank with my husband's money. She got very angry. It was my husband who agreed to my sister-in-law's request to borrow money to buy a house in order to appease her mother-in-law. Yes, in addition to eating and drinking this time they also wanted to borrow money from my husband. My sister-in-law wanted to buy a 4-bedroom house and open a house with my husband. It's not easy for me to come to see you. And not only do you not treat us to delicious food and drinks, you also want to use me as a nanny. I really raised a son like you in vain. You are so heartless. Your father, please say something. Are you going to watch your son bully me like this? My father-in-law clicked his tongue impatiently, obviously not wanting to care about this matter. To him, as long as someone cooks, it's a good thing. No one cares. The funny thing is that with so many people present, even the mother-in-law's beloved daughter refused to speak for her. It was not until the nephew said he was hungry that the sister-in-law persuaded the mother-in-law. My brother-in-law was right, you just go and cook. The mother-in-law was reluctant, but she didn't want to starve. The nephew glared at my husband and me, then twisted his waist and went into the kitchen, but he didn't forget to complain. He cursed us while cooking, saying that we were ungrateful and unfilial. I was afraid that he would call me for help, so I dragged my husband and daughter into the bedroom and locked the door. I tiptoed and took out a jewelry box from the bedside table. But they are all the gold jewelry I have saved for so many years. A house with gold in troubled times and a prosperous time. Even if they are useless, how can I give them a discount? When I hid all the things and went to open the door, my sister-in-law fell over to the door unexpectedly. I dodged and she fell to the ground in embarrassment, but she was not angry. She got up happily and called us to eat, but her eyes kept glancing around. During the meal, my mother-in-law wanted to clean out all the dishes in the refrigerator. Everything that could be cooked in the pot was now on the table. My mother-in-law's cooking skills were average. No matter how exquisite and expensive the seafood was, it would be inedible after she got it. However, my sister-in-law's family had never eaten these before. They ate them voraciously. I looked at my husband and asked him how she could find an excuse not to eat these. "I made all these. What are you going to eat?" My daughter just stretched out her chopsticks, and before I could stop her, my mother-in-law stretched out her hand to intercept her. "What are you talking about?" My husband pretended to be dissatisfied. My mother-in-law didn't care about that and piled the dishes on the table in front of herself. There was nothing in front of us. If we wanted to eat, we had to cook it ourselves. I stood up with a sneer. As expected, the refrigerator was empty by now, right? I had carefully prepared a week's worth of food for them. All the seafood and lobsters were bought from Xiao Rizi. Since they loved it so much, they had to eat their fill. I didn't know if they would regret it later for being so unrestrained tonight. Okay, then we won't eat. Fortunately, my daughter and I had already eaten before they came, and now we are not hungry at all. When it was time to go to bed at night, my mother-in-law said that she was in poor health and insisted on sleeping in our master bedroom. She gave your daughter's room to your nephew. What's the point of a girl sleeping so well? I knew it was almost time. The high temperature would be here soon. I didn't want to suffer here with them. I immediately yelled madly that this was my home. Why should my daughter and I sleep on the floor? I disagreed. My mother-in-law's face turned cold and she asked my husband if this was how he respected his parents, and what he said to his husband. The business had been communicated in advance, and he was just like a quail at the moment, not allowed to say a word. Seeing that her son was of no use, the mother-in-law felt that her dignity was destroyed, and she began to cry and wailed, saying how hard it was for her, that she should not have raised you in the first place, and it would be better for you to die on the roadside. You ungrateful person, now you let outsiders ride on my head, right? Speak up, I really gave birth to a son like you in vain. The mother-in-law pulled her husband with her claws and teeth, and suddenly there were several scratches on her face. I felt sorry for my daughter, but burst into tears at this time. Wow, don't bully my dad, you bad grandma, you little money loser, and you dare to say that to me. If it weren't for me, your dad would have died long ago. The mother-in-law rolled her eyes fiercely and yelled at her daughter. She still wanted to sleep in the bed. I tell you, all this is my little grandson's mother. Seeing that the mother-in-law was getting more and more outrageous, the sister-in-law hurriedly stopped her. If she really offended us badly, how could she ask for money? The mother-in-law was crazy enough, and the sister-in-law acted like a good person in a weird way. Sister-in-law, you don't blame my mom for saying those harsh words. She's doing it for your own good. Inin used to talk back to her elders when she was little, and she's no good when she grows up. She held my hand and said coquettishly that her parents were in poor health, so it was only natural for them to sleep in the master bedroom. Otherwise, my brother and sister-in-law would have to live outside and just come back during the day to eat together. I was secretly delighted. My sister-in-law's suggestion was exactly what I had in mind. She wasn't really that kind. She said that as soon as I left, the house would be turned upside down, but it didn't matter as all the valuables were on me. I had a cold face and smiled gratefully at my sister-in-law. I'll listen to you. They probably couldn't imagine that we would never come back after we left. In order not to arouse their suspicion, we took a few sets of clothes and nothing else. Before leaving, my sister-in-law didn't forget to tell my sister-in-law that there was no food at home, and that you should come early tomorrow morning and buy more food. My husband drove my daughter and me back to the house outside the suburbs. I was afraid that my daughter would be hungry, so I cooked some noodles for her. After washing up, we went to bed hastily. The temperature really got higher the next day. It was only 5 o'clock and the sun was high in the sky, hot and scorching. I got up and drank a few glasses of water first, then I felt more comfortable. I saw that the temperature was about to break 50, and the Weather Bureau also issued a high temperature warning, asking everyone not to go out for the next few days, but I knew that this was just the beginning. The weather was too hot, and I didn't even have an appetite for breakfast. I took my husband to the cellar to check the inventory, then I felt relieved. Fortunately, my parents had stayed in the Northeast for a long time before, and even in the South they had the habit of hoarding goods, so they dug a big cellar under their yard. Not long after, my mother-in-law called, and I turned on the surveillance at home. I saw that the whole family got up and turned on the air conditioner at home again. Everyone ate watermelon under the air conditioner to cool off. In just one night the house was terrible and the bathroom was, I won't say more. Not only did they not flush the toilet, but there were also several spots of filth on the floor. Then I looked at my daughter's room, which was a mess because of her nephew. The dolls my daughter liked had their hands and feet cut off, and even the expensive piano was not spared. Hurry up and buy some vegetables and come back to cook. Do you want to starve me to death? The mother-in-law yelled on the phone. She searched the house but only found a few bags of noodles. How could she, who had just eaten delicacies from land and sea, eat noodles with bland soup? Of course I couldn't go back. The words came to her lips but became, "Yes, Mom, I'm going to buy some vegetables now and we'll be back soon." The mother-in-law hung up the phone with satisfaction, and found that the watermelon was almost eaten up. She quickly asked someone to leave him a bite, but he was still eating the watermelon. The 4 people's faces changed, and they covered their stomachs and rushed to the toilet. There were only 2 toilets in the house, one occupied by the nephew and the other occupied by Soo-hee. The father-in-law and the sister-in-law were waiting anxiously at the door, their faces almost turning blue. The mother-in-law, who was still eating the watermelon, subconsciously covered her mouth. They slapped their lips and asked, "Who of you pooped in your crotch?" The duo who pooped in their crotches didn't bother to reply. The food was as thick as a flood. The mother-in-law who ate the watermelon was not spared. My husband and I laughed while watching the surveillance camera and slapped our thighs. They thought the delicacies from land and sea were so delicious. Yesterday morning before they came, I distributed the dried goods stored at home to the neighbors. I asked the wholesale market for those seafood, which were expired and could not be sold. The cheap seafood was expired. It would be strange if the watermelon didn't get stale after eating it. Fortunately, the weather was hot and the watermelon had been frozen. No one noticed that something was wrong. This rich dinner would become their day and night existence when they ran out of food. They were eating delicacies from land and sea the day before, and the price dropped off a cliff the next day. How could they bear it? Even if the adults could bear it, the nephew who was brought up in pampering would not accept it. Even if he cried, he would be thin. It was not until the evening that the mother-in-law remembered why I hadn't come back yet. Unfortunately, she turned off her phone when she called. What happened to Shunran? She didn't answer the phone. When she was about to call her husband, her sister-in-law pointed at the TV and screamed, "Mom, please watch the news. We won't be killed by the heat in the future." I was afraid that they would be stupid and not know how to watch the news, so I remotely tuned the weather channel for them. At noon, the temperature outside was already 50 degrees. They didn't feel much in the air-conditioned room. As soon as they opened the door, the hot wave hit their faces and burned their skin. They finally realized the seriousness of the problem. The water and electricity might be cut off at any time. The only food they had left was a few packets of noodles. They had already begun to regret driving us away. If we were still here, it would mean 2 more free laborers for them. But everything had just begun. In the last life, it was extremely. The high temperature weather will last for a whole month. I don't know how many people have died of the heat. They are still waiting. I went back with a lot of food, but no one answered the phone from morning to night. Mom blames you. Why are you so pretentious? You have to have a conflict with your sister-in-law. Now you can't find anyone. Are you satisfied? The sister-in-law was the first to lose her temper and showed a bad face to the mother-in-law. There were so many vegetables in the refrigerator yesterday, but they are all gone. Mom, are you sick? If you didn't cook so many dishes yesterday, we would still have food to eat today. It's all your sister-in-law's fault. I wanted to go to the kitchen to see if there was anything that slipped through the net, but they ate too cleanly yesterday, and there was no leftovers. There was some, but my father-in-law and mother-in-law got up in the middle of the night and stole it. They couldn't think of it. Overnight, earth-shaking changes had taken place outside. Now I regret it so much. Soo-hee couldn't stand being hungry for a day, so he asked his mother-in-law to cook noodles. The mother-in-law who was domineering in front of me was like a quail and dared not say a word. The noodles were not enough for the whole family. Most of them were eaten in one meal. Even so, the nephew still refused to eat. "I don't want to eat this, I want to eat lobster and abalone, I don't want to eat this." He slammed the table frantically and tried to overturn the bowl of noodles, but got burned and burst into tears. No one blamed the nephew but blamed the mother-in-law. Why did she cook the noodles so hot? After blaming the mother-in-law, she started to scold me, my husband, brother and sister-in-law who were not present. What a shame. Even if something happened and he died outside, didn't they ask someone to send us some food first? They really wanted to starve us to death, didn't they? My husband and I no longer have any illusions about this family. In the last life, they were so cruel as to push my husband out of the house, and then tricked me out again. Wasn't it just to occupy our home? They even didn't let go of my 6-year-old daughter. The high temperature and hunger made my nephew cry and make a fuss in fear, but my daughter just stayed quietly beside me and said that she could eat less. I didn't even dare to recall carefully how scared my daughter must have been when she was abandoned. She fell in front of me with blood and flesh, and I didn't even dare to touch her. My husband noticed my emotions and quickly pulled me into his arms. A guilty voice rang above my head. My wife, this time I will protect you and our daughter. I wiped my tears and calmed myself down. Yes, this time our family will be intact. It was late at night, and the sun still showed no sign of setting. My parents-in-law were completely panicked. They wanted to go out to find something to eat at night, but they didn't expect the sun to not set. On the third day of the high temperature, the temperature reached 60 degrees. Even the window glass was cracked by the sun. The big gift I prepared for them was officially unveiled. The water and electricity were cut off due to arrears. Before leaving, my husband said that the water and electricity bills were almost gone. In the last life, my husband was responsible for these. I didn't ask how they would survive in this high temperature without air conditioning. Fortunately, after giving birth to my daughter, I installed a wireless surveillance system at home. The air conditioner is controlled and can operate as usual even if there is a power outage. It does not affect our watching the show at all. We are in a good mood. We turn on the air conditioner and cook hot pot with seafood using the hot pot base that we bought at Haymalalo. We are so happy eating it. It is different from the cheap seafood that my parents-in-law had eaten before. This is a domestically bred fine product. After eating, I gave my daughter a Haagen-Dazs, one for each of us. Only then did my husband turn on his mobile phone. There were countless missed calls from my parents-in-law. He picked one and called back. As soon as the call was connected, my husband changed to an anxious tone. Mom and Dad, are you all right at home? It's hot outside now and we are locked in the hotel. Don't worry about us. We are eating hot pot and enjoying the air conditioning here. What's the matter with the power outage at home? Oops, I guess I forgot. Remember to pay the electricity bill. Wait for me. I will contact the property management right away. I was trying hard not to laugh. It was so mean. The family on the other end of the surveillance heard that we were still eating hot pot and using the air conditioner. They got conjunctivitis. The sister-in-law said anxiously, Mom, please ask my brother to send someone to pick us up. How can a son enjoy himself outside while you suffer here? The father-in-law was so anxious that he cursed Zhao Miao on the phone. He was right. Let them pick us up quickly. The husband cursed helplessly. It's not that I don't pick you up. It's too hot outside now. No one can go out. Why don't you come by yourselves? The daughter happened to say, this Haagen-Dazs is so delicious. It would be terrible if the nephew heard it, even though he had just eaten it on his first day here. A lot, but it doesn't mean he doesn't want to eat. I want to eat ice cream too. How can I do this? It's so hot outside, more than 60 degrees. My husband refused without thinking. His original intention was to fool them. If they go out, let alone walk to the hotel, they will be skinned even if they walk out of the community. And her original purpose was not this. It was the mother-in-law who was smart. She asked my husband to pay the electricity bill first. Oh Mom, it's not that I don't want to pay. It's just that there is a shortage of electricity now. We live in hotels every day and we have no money. Otherwise, transfer something to me. You still have the nerve to ask me for money, you ungrateful wolf. The mother-in-law made a series of attacks. The husband made them surrender with just one sentence. Forget about not transferring. I don't think you are very hot. Your mother just transfer it to him. If there is no air conditioning at home, it will be really hot to death. So he really couldn't sit still and regretted that he should not have come here. The mother-in-law asked how much the property fee was. The husband asked for 10,000 a day. What was the property regulation? Why didn't he go and rob it? So he couldn't help swearing. Finally, they had to earn 50,000 first. The husband felt at ease to receive it. Over the years, the money that the mother-in-law took from him was more than 50,000. I asked my husband, do I really have to pay the electricity bill for them? My husband looked at me meaningfully and said, watering, they can do more with electricity, right? With a dripping sound from the other end, the house was finally connected to electricity. It's not hot anymore, and it's time to solve the problem of food and clothing. After discussing it, they decided to let the mother-in-law go out to find the mother-in-law naturally refused to eat. But what made him disappointed was that no one spoke up for him. The sister-in-law was so hungry that she quickly opened the door and pushed the mother-in-law out, then quickly closed the door. The mother-in-law was wearing slippers, and the high temperature outside made the plastic slippers sizzle. The corridor was filled with the mother-in-law's screams. He kept knocking on the door, begging his sister-in-law to open the door for him. Zhao Miao, open the door for Mom quickly. It's too hot outside. Mom will die. Old man, please say something. Later, the sister-in-law got annoyed and urged her through the door. Mom, you have time to get out. Do you want to starve our whole family to death? Go find my brother now. He can't eat and drink well while we suffer here. The mother-in-law was actually persuaded by him, and was very cruel. My heart was about to go outside, so I quickly switched to the surveillance in the corridor. Fortunately, when I bought the house, the property management said that as long as it was a public surveillance, the owners could watch it. I saw a footprint when my mother-in-law raised her leg. Her feet were burned bloody before she left the community. I covered my daughter's eyes to prevent her from seeing. Even if the surveillance camera couldn't receive the sound, I could hear my mother-in-law's screams. The surrounding environment was even more terrifying. The trees were dry and there were many dried animals lying there. I saw my mother-in-law paused and actually picked up the animals on the roadside. Your mother wouldn't give them those things to eat, would she? My husband's face was not good either. He was obviously shocked. My mother-in-law thought the same as we did and knocked on the door. Zhao Miao opened the door and said, I brought you food. Sister-in-law, I looked through the peephole first, and only opened the door after confirming that mother-in-law did have something in her hand. When she saw clearly, she almost vomited. Just when I thought they wouldn't eat, several people pounced on it like hungry wolves with green light, and the things that mother-in-law brought were quickly eaten up. This time it was father-in-law's turn to go out to find food. He naturally refused. It was as hot as a furnace outside. Going out would be seeking death. Besides, he had a daughter and a son-in-law. As the younger generation, they should be the ones to rush to the front. Several people had conflicting opinions and started fighting after a while. Father-in-law started first. He smashed the teacup on Suhi's head. Go to hell, you old man, you dare to hit me. Suhi got angry and picked up a rolling pin to hit father-in-law. The sister-in-law didn't mean to help at all. Thinking, even the mother-in-law hid in the corner and dared not say a word. The father-in-law was not a soft persimmon either. He said that this was his son's home and Suhi was an outsider. He wanted to drive Suhi out. Now even the sister-in-law started to hit the father-in-law. The hit was too heavy. The father-in-law fell to the ground with his eyes wide open, and he died with his eyes open. My dad is dead, the sister-in-law screamed. Suhi didn't turn around when he saw this, and scolded him coldly to shut up. The mother-in-law seemed to be frightened and fainted. What should I do? The sister-in-law was anxious but not too sad. Now that there is one less person, there is one less ration, so the mother-in-law was pinched awake and was driven out again by the sister-in-law. My father's fate was also seen. Now is the end of the world. The only ones you can rely on are me and Suhi. The mother-in-law no longer struggled, and looked away with a deathly gray face. He went out, but this time he was not so lucky. He fainted on the ground under the scorching sun, and his skin was sizzling with oil. He was just like me in my previous life being burned to death. Mother-in-law never went back, but sister-in-law and Suhi still had to eat. They were so hungry that they had evil thoughts. At this moment the power was cut off at home again, and they could no longer get through to her husband. Suhi finally realized that she was fooled, but after so many days of hunger, even her nephew did not have the energy to cry. Suhi was unwilling to sit and wait for death, so she achieved her goal on the neighbors in this building. As long as they occupied a house at will, there would be water and electricity, and maybe even food. Unfortunately, based on my previous reminders and the food I sent them, they could only get a little hot water, and was not affected at all. Before leaving, I reminded everyone in the owner group, asking them to be careful of strangers knocking on the door recently. No one opened the door for Suhi, and those who dared to open the door were all big and strong men. Suhi, a rookie, was not worth mentioning in their eyes. He also begged people to give him some water humbly, but with my reminder, no one would pity him for being desperate. He finally attacked his sister-in-law, and even his own son was not spared in the end. What a selfish man. There was still half a month before the high temperature passed, and this family had already destroyed their own family. They were praised to the sky, and they ruined their own lives. Suhi actually survived the high temperature in the end, but it was a pity that he got heat stroke in the first late night after the sun went down completely met his death. After the high temperature, it rained heavily, as if to wash away this disaster brought to mankind. Regardless of the heavy rain, everyone ran outside to get wet in the rain, cheering that the high temperature was finally over. Many people still died in this high temperature. Fortunately, our neighbors all survived, which can be regarded as a good thing I have done after my rebirth. I hugged my daughter with tears in my eyes. Our family finally made it through and everything returned to order. We had a lot of food left to stockpile, which we donated. After the storm passed, my husband and I sold the house, and after some discussion, we simply lived in this small courtyard in the suburbs. From then on, we lived a happy life as a family of 3. The full text is over.